Today on the show, we kicked Roxanne out and we brought in Ryland. Well, hey there, and welcome to this episode of Ask Brady. Great to have you along for the ride. Things are a little different today because we are not joined by Roxanne. A little showboating much for the first show, okay? Roxanne is away for today and tomorrow and the weekend. She is helping out at a wedding for her friend, and so we have a fill-in, a substitute. And you know when you get a substitute teacher and you're like, I mean, obviously this isn't as good as the regular teacher, but maybe you have a little more fun because it's a little bit novel. This is Ryland. Ryland is the newest team member here at Pro Church Tools, and he is also my brother-in-law because nepotism, we love it here at Pro Church Tools. We're all about that nepotism life. And so Ryland is going to be taking the place of Roxanne. Ryland, why don't you tell Pro Church Nation, I don't know, one thing that's fun about yourself?
One thing that's fun about myself. I play piano. So
that's not fun at all. Everyone plays piano. You got a church audience. People that are watching this, every single person in the world plays piano.
I have lived in Uganda for a year of my life.
There you go. So lived in Uganda for a year of your life.
Like 5%?
Yeah.
5% of my life?
5% of your life. Wow. 5 out of every 100 days.
Wow.
What is the fraction if you bring that all the way down? 1 out of every 5? 1 out of every...
No. That'd be like 20%.
That'd be 20%. Sorry. 1 out of every 20. 1 out of every 20 days you lived in Uganda.
How about that? Yeah.
Crazy. All right. So what has happened this week? Oh, nothing. Just the launch of Nucleus, which has been insanity. Of course, Roxanne has to take off the time where Nucleus is launching. So we had our first deadline today. It just happened 2 hours and 35 minutes ago. The price of Nucleus went up from $49 a month to $55 a month. And we've had hundreds and hundreds of churches. I think we eclipsed 900 churches that have joined us so far. It's only been 50 hours, so that's pretty exciting. Lots of people jumping in there with the program and just building it out. And we have decided to change something, though, about the launch. And that is that the original plan was that on Tuesday, May 2nd, the price was going to go up from $55 to $65 a month. What instead I've decided to do, after getting the feedback from the first 900 churches and the whirlwind of these first 50 hours and how crazy it's all been, is that the price will go up, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to close registration for Nucleus at that time. So for the first round of charter members, what we're going to do is, gasp, get out of here. Trying to keep a straight face, couldn't. So what we're going to do is you have until Tuesday, May 2nd at midnight to join us inside of Nucleus. $55 a month is going to be a 45% lifetime discount because that advanced plan, when you join for $55 a month, you're getting the advanced plan, which is going to cost $99 a month when we add all the full features. And what we're going to do instead is, it's going to be May when this ends. What we're going to do is we're going to take these charter members of Nucleus and we're going to spend the summer building out Nucleus to where it can, will, and should be. And we're going to add all the advanced things. We're going to work twice as fast as originally planned. Instead of putting 1 full-time person on it, we're going to put 2 full-time developers on it, and we're going to move twice as fast as we planned to add everything that people are asking for inside of Nucleus. And so if you want to be a charter member and be a part of that group that's going to be able to give us feedback and say, this is what we want, this is what we need, and watch us build it out and release features as we go one by one as fast as humanly possible, you want to join as a charter member. It goes until Tuesday, May 2nd at midnight, and then we're going to close registration for Nucleus. You will not be able to join until we open back up again with the full new version of Nucleus in the fall, and then it's going to be $99 a month for that advanced plan instead of $55 a month. There will be a basic plan at that time. I think it'll be $65 a month, but it will be the no frills version of Nucleus. So no integrations, no built-in giving, no CHMS, church management software integrations, custom domains, and all that stuff won't be included. That'll be on the advanced plan. So before May 2nd on Tuesday, you can sign up for $55 a month, and that's a 45% lifetime discount guaranteed to never go up throughout the lifetime of Nucleus. And so that's that.
Why don't we ever get discounts and other things in life for 45% off? Ever?
Well, because
for a lifetime.
Well, because if you gave someone 45% off the lifetime of pizza, then the pizza place would go out of business. The lifetime wouldn't be very long.
Ooh, that's true.
That's the great thing about software.
We would all die so much sooner.
Digital goods is that you can discount them. And that's the thing about Nucleus. Like, it's awesome as it is. But right now, it's basic and beautiful. That's what we've been saying. And so if you join now, you're going to get that basic and beautiful functionality. It's going to look great, but it's not really robust. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this charter group, and we're going to give them the best of the best, the crazy discount, and we're going to take them throughout the summer and build Nucleus exactly how they want. And so if they say build this integration, we're going to build it. So if you're not a charter member, you don't kind of get that input. So if you use church management system A and nobody else does, well, we're not going to build that. But if you're a charter member, we will. So that's how it's all going to work. With all that being said, I'm exhausted. It has been, Roxanne and I have spent the last 2 days, and now it's going to be 3 days, on support, doing sales and doing like bug updates and doing like user onboarding. 15 hours a day, I think, each day on support. And then Roxanne got up and left. She just said, see ya. And so now it's just me.
And how do you feel?
Terrible. I feel all hot, but I also have the chills. Everything feels greasy. It's all bad. Yeah, that's a good idea. I got a haircut, though. That was nice. So that's okay, let's jump into the show. Let's give some valuable content. Ask Brady. Ryland asking the questions. Let's do it. First question.
All right.
Question 1. Bart says, hey guys, State of the Plate says that giving goes out with a giving app. But in general, church apps are bad and stats say aren't used. Any clarity to those two opposing thoughts?
Okay, so State of the Plate is an annual report released by, I'm not exactly sure who releases it. I think it's in conjunction with a bunch of different people. Basically, it's the report on giving amongst churches. And so they take this giant survey of 1,000 churches or something like that. And what they do is they look at all the trends, the ups and the downs, and they try to figure out, okay, where are things at with giving in churches on a macro level? So if you search State of the Plate in Google, you can see there's tons of great information. It's just fascinating. Now, one of the things in the report says that if you use a giving app within your church, giving goes up.
So something like Tithely.
Something like Tithely. We love the folks over at Tithely. But obviously, if you've been following Pro Church Tools for any length of time, you know how much that I advise against a church app for so many of the reasons that we've talked about ad nauseum in the past. If you just search Google Pro Church Tools app, you'll see a couple of articles. One of them is called 21 Shocking Statistics About Church Apps. And in that we break down, okay, here are all of the data that we have on apps and how it's just not very encouraging and it's basically a waste of money. So then how do we reconcile these two things? They seem contrary, they seem contradictory. How can they both exist? And the reason for that is very simple. If you are a church that has no digital or mobile giving options, and then you introduce a mobile app that allows you to give, such as Tithely, it's going to go up.
Makes sense.
Obviously. But it's probably still not the best way to do it. If you introduce mobile giving with an app like Tithely, that's an app that they're going to give you. It's not really a church app. It's more their app, and it's like kind of pre-made, and it's just a way to get an app into your church's hands, into the doors. Same thing with a thing like PushPay. Now, if you have a more robust giving solution, like if you put something like, just digital giving on your website, and if you have text to give options, and if you have something like Nucleus that's going to have built-in giving once we build that out this summer. All of those things will give you the equal boost that an app will, if not more so, and it's going to be without all of the baggage of an app, right? So you introduce an app that has giving built in, great, you'll probably see a boost, especially if you're not doing any digital giving before that, naturally. But that's kind of like, it's just a little bit deceiving the way the stat is probably gathered by saying people that had no digital giving whatsoever and then introduced a digital giving app totally went up. But if those people had done the same thing with text to giving, same thing with Nucleus, same thing with their website, the equal amount of increase would have also happened. And so then you have to look, okay, if we can expect the same increase across the board, what is the best solution? Would it be on the website? Would it be an app? Would it be Nucleus? Would it be text to giving? Would it be some kind of combination of these? And how would we bring it all together? And so I think that's where the that stat is coming, and that's how I would reconcile that. But this is really how church giving companies promote their app. They say, look, you start using an app, and giving goes up X% on average, which is an amazing selling point. And if you're a pastor, if you're a communicator even that isn't too well versed in like how all these things work, it's very easy to look at that and say, yes, totally. Especially because if you look at State of the Play, we see church giving going down for like almost half of churches, stagnating or going down. And so if someone comes to you and says, buy our app and your giving will go up, you're going to say, absolutely yes. And this is where it's tough, because if you're in a more desperate situation, or if you're like most churches, which is like, look, we've already got thin resources, we've got thin budget, thin volunteers, thin amount of skills on our team. I've got all these different hats. We've talked about that before. You're not in a position always to make the best decision. And that's why we're here. We're trying to help you navigate this crazy digital world, because sometimes it can be so easy to be led astray and just go with X, go with Y. But when you look at the macro trends of apps, it's just very clear. Here's one thing that I want to talk about, because one question I've been answering, not a lot, but somewhat commonly over the last 3 days about Nucleus is people will ask, can Nucleus do push notifications? And I'll say, oh, Nucleus is a website, so no. There are websites, and we could build this into Nucleus. We're not going to, because I hate when websites do this. But you know when you land on a website and it's like, do you want to allow notifications from this website? It'll often happen. It'll happen when you go to like a news site. It'll be like, CNN wants to send you notifications. You're like, get out of here, CNN. I don't want any of that. And to be inclusive, Fox News will be like, hey, do you want to allow notifications? Like, get out of here, Fox News. Why am I here to begin with?
And then it's so difficult to actually like find the X button, and you accidentally click on an ad.
Wow.
And then,
now you're into like watching some Acura ad, and you're like, I'm not buying no Acura. I'm 25. And so some websites, desktop only right now, can allow notifications, but they're the worst. Here's what I would say about push notifications. Push notifications are going down. We're beginning to get to push notification fatigue. I don't know about you, Rylan. Nothing can push notify me on my phone except for like 2 apps. And they're all real people that are talking to me, not apps like, some dude or some church's app. And so the most recent stat, and this is becoming worse every year, is that we're now at a point where 38% of people either rarely or never allow push notifications from apps. So if you look at it this way, and here's how we're going to break it down. Okay, let's say you have a church of 100 people. 100 people. And you produce, you create, you build, you get a church app. And you're like, we want as many people to use this app as possible. It's going to be kind of like, our central location for everything that's happening. Okay, so half of US smartphone users download 0 new apps per month. And 60% of Google Play apps have been downloaded a grand total of 0 times. And, because I hear this a lot, churches generally, the culture of a church is going to be a lot older. Like the demographics of a church generally are a lot older than the demographics of your community. That's just the way that it is. And so you've got to imagine that there's some percentage of people that are not using the app just not going to download an app at all. It's not in their wheelhouse or what they want to do. So I'm not going to go as far to say that 50%, but let's say something like 1/3 of your church is just never going to download the app to begin with.
33 people.
So now you're down to 66 people in your church, or 67 people. Okay, now what we have is the most upsetting stat, which is that 2 in 10 people that download your app, only 2 out of 10 will become active users. Okay, so now you've got...
Get the calculator.
So, yeah, we're not doing this math right. 67 times 0.2. Now you're at 13 people that are actually maybe active users of the app. And now,
They're probably all going to be like the leaders of the church too.
And knowing that 38% of those people will never actually set push notifications, now you've got, what's the inverse of 38? 62% of people that are willing to set push notifications. So now you're at about 8 people. 8 people out of 100, let's round up to be generous, 1 out of 10 in your church that are going to have those push notifications actually set up. And you are going to expend so much of your energy within your communications getting those push notifications to be allowed. Like, because it's naturally set up where 1 in 10, which is a rough guess, but I think it's probably realistic, 1 in 10 are going to allow push notifications automatically. To get that number to go up at all, you are going to have to expend so much effort. Every time you mention the app, you're going to have to say, please allow for push notifications. Every time someone turns on the app, you're going to have an annoying prompt that says, hey, turn on push notifications. Instagram keeps doing this. No Instagram. I say no every time. Let it go. It's over. I'm beginning to resent you, Instagram. You don't want to foster that type of relationship or feelings towards your church app. Now, what if there was, I don't know, Ryland, a replacement for push notifications? Now, what does allow push notifications? It's something that, it's kind of a new technology.
Okay, yeah.
People aren't very familiar with it. It's called email. Okay? The original push notification. And you know who has email? Everybody has email. Even the older people in your church have email. Why? Because they want to keep up with their grandkids. Every person has email. And I would warrant that you could get easily 5 out of 10 people in your church on your email list without any effort, 8 to 9 out of 10 of those people with a little bit of effort on your part. And now, what is the average open rate for a church email? But a guess?
I feel like it's like kind of low, but like not like too low.
The average
like
open rate
5,
for like really
like
good
5 out of
email
10.
lists is 3 out of 10, and you're exactly right. Average open rate for most churches is about 5 out of 10.
Yes.
So 5 times better push notifications on email rather than on mobile. Guess what? Push notifications, you got to build an app. It's expensive. Most church apps have a setup fee, costs $75 to $150 a month. Some people are starting to give away free apps. Guess what? You get what you pay for. Those apps are crap. You don't want them. You can set up something with MailChimp and do your email marketing 100% for free. 0 cost, 5 times better on push notifications.
Wow.
So there you go.
You just blew my mind.
I know, right? It's good having you on Ask Brady. So that's my very long answer to that first one on apps. Let's go into the second one.
Second one is... All right. Second one is from Owen.
Owen says, you chatted a lot about best practices for formatting a connection card, minimal info requests, etc. But what about best practices for actually collecting them? Right now, we're collecting offering at the start of the service, so it doesn't really give time for people to fill out the card and turn them in there. Asking them to turn them in at the Welcome Center seems like it's adding a step and a barrier to getting the data. How do you normalize the process and optimize it?
Okay, so generally, when you do as many church announcements as I have, you see the way churches, on average, in general, figure out their connection card responses. And basically, there are 2 ways, and it sounds like Owen is doing, or at least considered both. The one is fill out the card and then manually, after service, walk out into the lobby and then go to the appropriate desk to return the card. The second way that people have it doing is when the offering comes by, put your card in the offering. One nice thing about this is that if you're not giving, kind of makes it seem like you're giving because you're putting something in the basket.
Ooh, super spiritual.
Feels good. Third thing is people will have kind of self-serve boxes or like envelope, like putter inners, whatever those are called, mailbox kind of like hangers, whatever they're.
Slot?
Yeah, something like that. Let's go with that, slot. Where it's like you're leaving service, as you're exiting the doors, just drop it in the basket there. So those are the kind of 3 ways that I see most of them being done. Now, in Owen's case, if you're going to have a thing where like people are filling out something every single week, not just new visitors, but the existing congregation as well, you're most definitely not going to want to have offering at the beginning of service. I just cannot imagine how both of those things are going to coexist, especially considering most churches, people are showing up late as it is. Mm-hmm. So if you want every single person to fill something out and keep offering at the beginning of service, that's just bad communications. There's no way that's going to work, because the only way that you can resolve that is by saying, okay, either drop it off at the welcome desk or drop it off as you exit the actual auditorium. But now that I think of it, you might be able to get away with it by doing that. You could have offering at the beginning of service and just recognize that no one is going to drop off the card in the offering, or at least a very small percentage. What you're going to have to do then is probably at the end of every service, prompt people to fill out that card if they haven't already, and then drop it in the baskets as they exit the auditorium, as they exit the sanctuary. Because if you're kind of talking about it and promoting it at the beginning of service, and then expecting people to take action at the end, you're going to have this 60, 90, 120 minutes in between where people are going to forget what you want them to do, and then they're just not going to do it. And so the way it's set up right now in Owen's case is difficult. What I would do is put offering in the middle with announcements, or in between worship and the message or whatever, and then what I would do is have them kind of prompt them at the beginning of the service to begin thinking about it and filling it out, prepare them, and then remind them as the offering baskets come by, and that way you can maximize the amount of response cards. The problem is, when I see churches doing this, they'll say, if you're new, take your response card to the welcome desk to get a free gift. If you're a regular visitor, don't worry, because we have no gift for you, regular. Put it in the basket. And so now you've got 2 different groups, and you're singling out visitors, and you're not. So I don't really love that. And so I'm actually, frankly, Owen, I am not a fan at all of having people fill out something every single week. Like, if you are the existing church, filling out the same thing every single week in a physical card, I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm not really sure like the best purpose for that. Like if you're trying to track attendance, I think there are better ways. Like you can just count. If you're trying to track like person-to-person attendance, I just don't think you're going to get a good enough response rate from those cards to have actually valid and insightful data. I don't think the data is going to be very strong. I think there's going to be a lot of people that just don't fill out the card, and so that data won't be reliable. And it's just going to be a hassle for most people. And then you're separating new people and your guests. So what I would have is like one singular connection card, maybe a digital connection card. That way anyone could do it within their seats. And then there could also be maybe a fallback to the physical one. But on a whole, those are the three places that you can take them. Offering, lobby, baskets on the way out.
Or slots.
I don't like the word slot. Let's go with baskets. Third and final question.
All right. Third and final question.
What should I do if the main leader I'm working for doesn't like the design work I do and wants to pay someone else to do it that's not a part of a ministry at all?
This is tough because we don't know the root cause of this because we don't have this person's portfolio. The easy answer is maybe your work is terrible. That's the easy answer. Your work could be awesome, but maybe
We don't know.
maybe this person, their work is just not great, and their pastor is like, look, you should be doing X, and we're going to outsource this to somebody else. Let's assume, though, for the sake of this question, and for everyone listening in Pro Church Nation, let's assume that like your work is good, like it's solid, and your pastor is very particular and wants to go elsewhere. We've talked about this before in the past, the difficulty and the best ways to navigate tricky church politics, and the problem of having a pastor that's you. The way that church structure is set up is that your lead pastor, your senior leadership, is very accustomed to making any and every decision and is very accustomed to being seen by their church as the be-all and end-all for all knowledge. That's what's expected of our lead pastors. And it's an unfair expectation that we put on them. But they're expected to know everything, do everything, and lead us in every way. They are expected to lead very well in their personal parental life, in their marital life, in their preaching life. They're expected to lead us when it comes to the ways of the Bible, the ways of spirituality, the ways of, this is the worst. When like pastors start like, we expect our pastors to know everything about science, and then they like do series on like science in the Bible. It's like, what do you know about science? But that's just the way that our churches are set up, where pastor knows all, and we go to them for everything.
Man, I feel like that would be even worse than being a celebrity.
Oh, it's horrific.
Like a celebrity, at least like you don't have the expectations of like, I need to be the best role model. A pastor, you have every single area of your life being analyzed and being scrutinized even more than a celebrity, I think.
Absolutely. And that's why we see like burnout in pastors, is because like the weight and burden of that is tough. Now, on the flip side, what this does is that because this expectation is set on pastors improperly, unfairly, they begin then to respond to it in their leadership style. And so they respond to it by being like, okay, I have to be the one that makes decisions. And what this does is it leaks into their ability to delegate and their ability to allow others to run in their lane and empower them to do so. A pastor will look at something and say, yeah, I don't like this because it doesn't have enough bright colors and there's no like clip art in it. Or they'll look at it and be like, gradients, ew, that's gross, because they don't understand design trends. Or they'll look at something and be like, can we make this font bigger? And you'll be like, yeah, but then we'll remove all negative space. And your pastor's like, I don't know what negative space is. I can't read this. Make it bigger. And you're like, well, but then that doesn't follow best practices for design. I don't care. Just do it. And that's the tricky situation that we're in here. And so it really comes down to something bigger than convincing your pastor or senior leadership that what you're doing and the work you're doing is valid. It comes down to your pastor's ability to be able to delegate and empower you to do what you do. Now, what I always try to do when I'm navigating a situation like this is start my own company, and then no one can tell me what to do. No, when I'm trying to navigate a situation like this, that was kind of true, is that what I try to do is I say, look, I'm a part of your team for a reason, right? Like, why am I doing this? Because you think that I have the capacity to do it. The fact that you want to outsource it to someone else is first very hurtful. Like, it hurts my feelings. Let them know that. Share like the fact that this is affecting you emotionally, and then be like, is this a problem with my skill? Do you think I'm not good enough? And if that's the reason, then you can respond to that and be like, okay, well, if you compare my work to others' work, I think that it's fairly comparative. And the great thing about having Facebook groups like we do now in the church communications world, visual church media, church communications, all these Facebook groups, is that you can post something and have like dozens of church communicators validate what you're doing. And so what you could even do, this would be pretty gangster, post something in that group and be like, hey, is this good or is this crap? And then people can respond, and then you can be like, here is 30 other experts at churches that know what they're talking about, and they all agree with me and not you.
Oh, but then there's that like awful moment of like when everybody's just like silent because they don't want to say, and then everybody's like, it's kind of
Then you'll know that your stuff is trash and that you should be just letting your pastor do what they want. And you can run in a different lane. That's the thing, like, let's talk about that from the flip side. Self-awareness is so key. There are so many people that are serving in regular jobs in the church world. This is a worldwide thing that is not specific to church whatsoever. We need to be able to be self-aware of what we're good at and what we're bad at. And if we're living and working under any illusion that we're succeeding in a role that we're not only are we hurting our own selves and our own like career trajectory and our own happiness and fulfillment and future endeavors, but we're also hurting and annoying those around us because we're hurting the general culture of the organization, the workplace, the church, whatever it might be. And this is where you really have to be able to separate your work from yourself. Because if you're able to do that, what you can do is then get objective feedback and be able to be self-aware based on the feedback that is being given without any bias or partiality, whatever that word is, to your work. And so that is easier said than done. Granted, we're in the middle of this Nucleus launch. And every time a church signs up, I feel like this validates my existence. And every time a church goes, I don't even get what this is for, I'm like, I will die alone. Right? Like, I don't want to posture here and flex and be like, look, I know how easy it is. I can remove myself from any situation. I am a robot. Now, I do have some sociopathic tendencies that allow me to remove emotion from almost every situation. That's my brother-in-law. But we all still tie ourselves up in some way to our work. The more that we can separate ourselves from that, the more self-awareness that we're able to attain, and the more that we're able to get feedback that's honest from others. And instead of being defensive immediately, because that's what our brains are programmed to do, we're programmed to be like, oh, someone is hurting me. I must fight back and be defensive, lest I die and not survive. Push back on that. Get objective feedback. Determine if you suck or not, or what level of suck that you have. Maybe you're medium suck. Maybe you're like low suck, high suck. Whatever it might be.
You should make a survey or like a questionnaire. How much do I suck?
Low, medium, high. Yeah. And this is where like having people around you is also helpful. Like maybe you don't have the relationship with your senior leadership where you can talk and say, is this good or not? But there's got to be someone around you. Hopefully that you have an existing relationship here, or this is where you can begin to foster that relationship, where you can go to them and say, like, my pastor's trying to outsource this. Is this good or is this not good? And I would be willing, anonymous, send it to my Facebook, send it to my Instagram DM, send us an email, hello@prochurchtools.com, and I will tell you if you suck or not, because I am brutal that way. If you're willing to do that, send it to me and I will give you that feedback if you don't know if you can find someone around you. But I had these conversations almost every week. So we just did our big Easter experience, and my friend Justin, who's our experience director at church, who was the one that crafted the entire thing, and like he was the one that like created the entire experience. So we're gonna have this, and then we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna do that, and he executed the whole thing. And I remember him telling me, he's like, okay, now that it's like a week removed, and I don't feel as emotionally involved, and 5 services are done, and I've got some sleep, what do you think? And then we went through and reflected on every piece, and we talked about the good and the bad and the ugly, and we both were like, okay, here's how we can do better next time. And he does the same for me on my projects because we're able to give ourselves feedback that way. And so that way, we increase our own self-awareness because we remove ourselves from our work. We're not our work. It's okay if this is bad or good or whatever because we are still intrinsically valuable as human beings. Apart from that, feedback gets given. We become more self-aware of what we're doing. And now we're able to approach our conversation with our senior leadership. And we know if they're wrong or if we're wrong. And once we get to that place, well, then it goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is where you need to be able to communicate to your senior leadership the fact that, look, if you want me to be able to continue to serve this church the way that I am, you need to let me run in my lane. You need to let me be in charge of this. Like, you put me here for a reason. And either this is going to work or it's not. But I know what I'm doing is valuable. I know the work that I'm doing is quality. Here are all the reasons why. And so to move forward, I need you to be able to trust me. Not only for the health of our overall organization, because you can't be micromanaging. If your pastor's micromanaging in this respect, it means he or she is doing it in every respect, which is just not healthy overall. And so, those are a bunch of not exactly. There's a little bit of jumble in those thoughts. I think there was some really good stuff in there, though. So if you can pull it out, maybe give it a re-listen and kind of like map out something that's a bit more, streamlined and with a little bit of like a timeline rather than do this and then do this. But I think that all the gold is there. So, we only went with 3 questions this week because Roxanne screwed up. She screwed up hard and gave us a question that was not a question we could use on the show.
Actually, what happened is she screwed up and we fired her. That's why she's not here today.
Roxanne's not on vacation. She's gone. You think she's going to watch and or listen to this episode?
No, I really don't.
What should we say? Okay, everyone in Pro Church Nation needs to know how we really feel about Roxanne. She's gone and I'm way over my head with all this support. So that's how it's actually happening.
Yeah.
Well, Roxanne, come back. We need you. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Ask Brady. Make sure you give some feedback on Ryland because he needs objective feedback on whether or not he is good at this. And he has been able to remove himself from his art, remove himself from his co-hosting Ask Brady abilities. And so give him, in the comments below, a rating. Low suck, medium suck, or high suck. Thanks so much for watching. If you want your question answered, hashtag Ask Brady, Instagram and Twitter. In the comments below on YouTube and Facebook, hashtag Ask Brady. Go seize the 167 people. Pro Church Nation, we love you. We'll see you next time.